Whether you work for an in-house security department or a contract security department, you may at some point realize that the job you signed up for isn't what it's cracked up to be. But what are some of the red flags that indicate that you might need to start looking elsewhere for another security position? That's what we'll be talking about today. Let's get started. Before I forget, hit the subscribe and notification buttons below to ensure you get all the latest and greatest videos from my channel. Okay, we're going to do this top 10 countdown style today. Let's go. Coming in at number 10, they can't get your uniform right. You're wearing pants that are too big, you still don't have a jacket and it's freezing out, and you got one shirt for a full-time job. What the? Even McDonald's probably gives you a full set of uniforms on day one. Why is this so hard? Number 9, you don't get paid on time or correctly. Here's how most jobs work. You show up at work, you do your job, you get paid for the hours you work. Simple, right? But there seems to be an issue with some contract security companies where this doesn't happen reliably. Probably because some companies still use handwritten forms to track hours, like instead of computers. I don't get it. Number 8, there's no post orders or policies for your site. How are you supposed to know your regular duties at your site? How should you handle emergencies? With no documentation to reference, the answer is wing it. Not a great way to operate, and it's a recipe for disaster. Number 7, you got little to no training. I worked at a large security company early in my career that shall remain nameless. My initial training consisted of a bunch of us new hires going into the room, the receptionist putting in a training videotape, turning the lights off, and leaving the room. 2 hours later, she returned to a room of mostly asleep new recruits who had basically learned nothing. That was it. That was my initial training. You may have gotten less than that. Training is essential to your effectiveness and safety on the job. A company that doesn't invest in training doesn't invest in its employees. Number 6, leadership is poor or non-existent. Maybe you have a roving supervisor that is responsible for multiple sites and you see them infrequently. Maybe your boss is incompetent and has less experience than you. Poor supervision is a symptom of a poorly run department or organization. Number 5, there's no accountability for poor performance. If officers who don't do their jobs properly or violate policy are not held accountable, it sends a message to the rest of the team that poor performance is tolerated. This can slowly tank the morale and performance of the team. Number 4, your coworkers are clowns. This is related to number 5 and 6. A site with poor supervision and no accountability will attract and retain clowns. That's a fact. They will create a toxic and unprofessional environment for everyone else, pushing out high performers to make room for, you guessed it, more clowns. Number 3, your site is chronically unstaffed due to turnover. Many security departments and companies are struggling to attract and retain good talent right now, given the thriving job market. However, if officers are turning over frequently because they are unhappy with the job, this is a bad sign that you should not ignore. Number 2, you have defensive tools with no training and or supporting policies. Here's a baton. Use it if you need to. If this was the extent of your training on your baton, you're in trouble. A lack of clear written policies on use of force and defensive weapons can lead to disastrous consequences for both the officer and the person on the receiving end of that weapon. Guess who's going to lose their job or worse when this happens? And the number 1 red flag is, wait for it, your safety is unreasonably in danger on a regular basis. Notice I said unreasonably. That's because security work can be dangerous depending on where you work. However, if you work with clowns who won't back you up, your supervisor is inept, you don't have training on your defensive weapons, and you're placed in harm's way unnecessarily, that's a big problem and a major sign you need to find another job. There you have it, the top 10 red flags you should look out for in your security career. By the way, if you checked off all of these, you should run, not walk away from wherever you're working ASAP. Join me next time when I talk about how to avoid finding yourself at a job with these red flags. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification buttons below. Also, drop me a comment about the red flags you have encountered on the job. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Dave Corbin, and this is From Guard to Pro.